Welcome to Stone Cottage Adventures. Today I'm sharing the makeover of my small bedroom. This is a very small room that serves two big functions. A guest room with a trundle bed for when my grandchildren visit, and on a daily basis, my husband's office. So where's the desk, you ask? That's the first problem we need to solve. We had been using a table that's far too large for the space, so we removed it when the grandchildren were here in February, but I had to replace it. The next problem was the glare on the computer screen from that window above the bed. I need some drapes or something so my husband will quit putting a blanket over. The last problem, the one that bothered me as much as the blanket over the window, was the quilt on the bed. It was purchased about 30 years ago for my daughter's room, and the fabric on it is disintegrating. Now, my inspiration for the room makeover comes from two different places. The first one is this photo you might recognize from my video on window treatments. The daybed and the narrow room are exactly what I've got, and I loved the green and the drapes over the window. Now, my second inspiration for the room is this vintage French fabric, which we're going to be talking about later on. But the most exciting thing that's happening, the desk. About a month ago, a company called FlexiSpot reached out and offered me a desk. Now, it's pretty common for companies to offer me free stuff if I'll promote their product. But I refuse to sell overpriced stuff that people don't need. So I've never responded to one of these offers before. Now, what was different about this one? Well, I did need a desk, but what really got my attention was it was an adjustable desk. You could sit or stand or sit in a wheelchair. Now, for the last 19 years, I've had my antenna up when it comes to adjustable desks and workspaces. Back in the fall, I did a video called 99 Life-Changing Designs, where I talked about accessibility and age in place. I'll link that below if you'd like to see that and to meet my son. In that video, I mentioned that Pottery Barn has a new line with accessible features. When I looked at the FlexiSpot website and compared it to Pottery Barn, I knew this was something I wanted to tell my viewers about. The desk I received is the FlexiSpot Comar all-in-one standing desk with their identification is EW8M. You will find a link to that desk in the description and to their website. Here's what I have to say about what I received. First of all, it arrived in less than 48 hours, well packaged, in perfect condition. Next, assembly took less than 15 minutes, and I did it all by myself, even though I'm not very handy. There were four main parts: the desktop, the one-piece base, and the 2 feet, that's what I'll call them. Additionally, there was a power cord, 16 screws, and a handy hex wrench. I could get it all done without having to go look for any tools. And then it has several very thoughtful, handy features that you should notice. There are 4 buttons that allow you to preset your favorite height. There's also a locking button so kids can't play with it, and a drawer, 4 adjustable discs under the feet. that screw up and down like appliances, so you can make sure your desk is perfectly level and your pencils don't roll off. And 2 USB ports and another little attachment where that's the size my phone uses. So it's extremely sturdy and stable and can lift up to 110 pounds. So you don't need to move anything off. And as you see it going up and down, that is actually the speed that it goes. And my husband has not used it yet, but I think he's quite excited about it and looks terrific from our end. The paint color I ended up going with was, turn it right side up, Majolica Green. It's a Sherwin-Williams color. And believe it or not, that's the middle color right there. So you can see what a difference lighting makes. Now, to choose a paint color for a wall, my couple of tips that I like. First of all, I am not going to choose a paint color based on one teeny tiny little swatch. You can go online and order sheets that are larger, that are actually painted, so you can get the actual color. And to do it a little faster, if you don't want to wait for that, I simply took, in my case, 8 chips. I thought the middle color was the one I wanted, and so I took one a little bit lighter and one a little bit darker. On the bottom there, you can see that's my wall color, which is the blonde by Sherwin-Williams, and Dover White, which is my trim color. And I took those to the paint store with me to make sure that all those colors would work together, because I didn't want the house to be jarring as you went from one room to the next. And I tape these to the wall, and I wait for the daylight to change. Right now, it's kind of dusk, and I'm using artificial light. I also want to see it at night. I also want to see it, obviously, in full daylight sun. Well, here is the vintage fabric imported by Pierre Deux, probably in the 1980s, and made by a company called Soleado, a French company, and the designer was Charles Demery. Since I was only able to find 2 yards, I decided to cut the fabric into strips. There are 5 of these wider strips and 4 of the narrower ones. This is where the most creative ideas begin with the biggest challenges. Now, I found a bolt of a green cotton fabric at Joann's that blended well with the French fabric. The great part about the green fabric is it was 108 inches wide, and it was on sale for 30% off, and I had a 20% discount. So I paid $5.60 per yard. That was under $60 for the bolt. I bought an off-white bolt of the same fabric to use as a lining, and 3 yards of a pink fabric for an accent. Now, if you really want to learn how to make curtains, I will put a link to the tutorials from Online Fabric Source. So here's what I did. I cut the lining to the exact size I wanted the curtains to be, approximately twice the width of the windows, and the height from floor to ceiling minus 2 inches. The green fabric was 4 inches wider and 12 inches longer than my lining fabric. I laid out the green panels, topped with the lining. As you can see the extra on the sides here, so I fold it in half and fold it a second time, and I press that and stitch it. Now, to make the decorative trim, I cut a strip of the pink fabric, a 2-inch wide strip, and I have stitched it onto one side of our decorative fabric. Then I folded that in half, and I folded up the other edge of my decorative fabric and pressed them, and I aligned the decorative fabric to my inside edge on the front of my curtain, and I stitched it right there at the edge. And then I stitched what we call stitch in the ditch. I stitched between the French fabric and the pink fabric, and now that is attached on the front. Now at the top, I have about, around 12 inches or so, and I fold it in half, and I fold it in half again. And this is where my rod pocket is going to be. So I stitch right at the edge, and I make a second stitch about midway between, and this is going to create my rod pocket. Here you can see my first finished panel. The inside edge is the one on the left. To create a hem, I simply used fusible bonding as an iron-on, so I wouldn't have a lot of stitching around the bottom. I had to make 4 curtains, 2 of the longer ones and 2 of the shorter ones. And with the decorative fabric, I wanted to make sure I was applying it to the inside edge, and I had the fabric going in the same direction. There's not really an up and down, but it definitely has some direction to it. Okay, so we got the walls all painted, and we hung the curtains. And here are the curtains on this window, the side of the house. And this one goes, this is an actual 8-foot ceiling, and this one goes all the way down to the ground. And the ones on the front of the house, I have these cute little tie backs with the birds, and one pair has come, the other pair has not arrived. I ordered them off Amazon, but I haven't seen the other pair. And we brought back in the bed. You can see that, and the chest of drawers and the lamp. And I took, there's the quilt that I took and recovered. I'm using that on the bottom trundle, kind of like a dust ruffle. Better than a 2-bedroom house. And this is an old coverlet that either started with my grandmother or my great-grandmother. I'm not sure which. It was on the beds in my bedroom when I was a little girl, and they were old then. And so I like the look of the white with the green. And when they were on my bed, the walls were a little bit lighter than this, but they were green. Now, as I am photographing this, it looks really yellow. The green has a much more yellow cast, and in reality, it's a little bit more minty. So it goes much better with the curtains in reality than it does here. Now, this is one of the old original quilts, which interestingly enough, the colors work really well together. This one's not too badly damaged, and I may use that again. Now here's the pink that I used. Oh, there's Kirby. Doesn't want to miss the party. He's going to look out the window for us. This is the pink fabric, and this is a neutral fabric that I actually used for the lining, and I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. And over here, I've got another one of the shams. The shams are not in bad shape. It was the quilts that were so torn. And then here's some leftover green fabric that's the same as the curtains. It's pretty rumpled at the moment, but I'm trying to figure out what I want. And I do that by simply using my eyes. And I'm thinking I like the lighter colors, the pinks and the original quilt that I used. Still kind of hemming and hawing. But I want to have standard size bed pillows, additionally with some just regular square pillows. Now I've also brought in the art that was in this room. This one was a piece of needlework that my grandmother did for my mother, probably in the 80s or something. And it has a little bit of green, and it looks really pretty with the wall color. And I think it's really pretty with the Suliato fabric, that pattern. The colors in there work really well. Oh, Kirby, he's being a little bit of a pill. And then I have some other pictures that were on the wall, and I've just brought them in. These are just inexpensive little prints. And here are the 2 needle points that were on the walls, and I kind of like them in here still, so I think I might be using that. And we've got a family photo and another little picture of the Savior that everybody likes. And these are 2 pictures that again were here on the walls. These pictures were on the walls. That's kind of dark, you can't see that, but they're both Renoir prints. So again, keeping that French theme happening. And here is the old family coverlet that I think works really well in this room too. And I've still got some leftovers of the stripes that I cut, the strips that I cut for the French fabric. And I'm trying to figure out if I want to use them, maybe use them around a pillow in some way, you know, create a kind of a square out of it. I don't know. That's where it kind of gets fun and creative. This is the part where you definitely, you start getting creative. I wanted you to see this at this stage. Now, some people have you watching in fast motion while you do the whole thing, and I'm just not that patient a person. But that's what I'm working with, and we'll see what I come up with. Okay, the room is as finished as it's going to get for the moment. So we have our freshly painted walls. We have our curtains that are using the vintage Pierre de fabric. I have covered one of the quilts. It's on the bottom. It's kind of being used as a dust ruffle. The other one I still need to do, but I intend to use this white coverlet on the bed. And we have the new desk for my husband. So we have addressed the issues with our bright light, our need of a new desk, and our taking care of our quilt. And we have decorated the room. Now I'm going to give you some close-ups for some fun things that we have done in the room. Now you can see from the old picture of the room, I have reused a lot of the same, well, on the walls, really exactly the same thing. So I have my little needlepoint ladies that my grandmother did years ago, and I've used a little flower picture, a little botanical underneath it. And these were on the other wall. Now they were on the left wall, now they're on the right wall. And I have continued to use the quilted pillow shams. They were not in bad shape, and the colors, interestingly enough, work very well. Now, one of my favorite little whimsical touches is these curtain tiebacks that have birds. I ordered 2 pairs, you know, one for each set of windows, and one set came, the other set is still in transit. They do not exactly match my curtain rods. The curtain rods came from the Junior League thrift sale for $2 each, so that's a real bargain. Here's our view out the window, and our basket will be filled, our little hay trough will be filled as soon as the annuals come in. Now this wool coverlet I had been using in the other bedroom, but it just really worked well in this bedroom. So I've brought it in here as a nice little accent. And this cotton coverlet, I'm not quite sure where it came from, but when I was a little girl in the 60s, it was on the beds in the bedroom that I shared with my sister. And only one is left, and it's not in wonderful condition. So when the grandchildren come, I'll put something indestructible on it. But for now, it looks really pretty on there. The lightens the room. It's a nice contrast with the green. And I used my scraps and pieced together my Pierre de pillow with the borders, the same border that's on the curtains. Here's my other lady. And I absolutely love the little cross stitch that my grandmother did. The colors are prettier in here than any room that it's ever been in. And that is a picture of my family probably 30 years ago. Well, a good 25 years ago. And we have the lamp that I think belonged to my great aunt. Probably needs to be rewired. I hope it doesn't burn the house down. And some azaleas from the yard. An East Lake dresser. Now this is where the other two tiebacks need to go. So you can see it'll be opening up the window and look really pretty there, but in the meantime, it's just hanging down. And here is my husband's workspace with the pictures that I'd had before. And the shelf that was above the window on the right is now up here. So he has a lamp, and there's his desk. Anyway, they sent me this desk to do, you know, an evaluation on, and my husband said, do an endorsement. Now, that's high praise from my husband. Everything he ever sees, he can think of a way to make it better. And he has just been playing with his desk like a little kid at Christmas time. And so, resounding endorsement from my very picky husband. So there is our finished bedroom. Thanks for sticking around. Oh, the book on the bed. That was a book from when my father was a little boy in the 1930s. Anyway, thanks for joining us. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. And I've had a terrific time redoing our room. Thanks again.